Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, From the Depths of Darkness to the Light of Success. I am your host, Chris Swick, and on this podcast, we talk about mental health, addictions, and really anything anyone's afraid to talk about, we talk about it on this show. I want to make people afraid to not talk about these things. I believe everyone's story is valuable at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. You're all welcome on this platform. Before we get started, head over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, head over to the Instagram page at Depths of Darkside, hit the follow button if you want to follow along on my journey in my personal life and with the podcast. With no further ado, from Calgary, Alberta, I got a great guest with me today. I got Liban Hassan. You want to take it away and let them know a little bit about you and what you're all about?
Thank you, Chris, man. I appreciate you having me on. You said you were going to butcher my name and you didn't. Kudos to you, man. I am a writer. Actually, let's pull that back. I'm a father first. I am a friend. I am a husband, a son. Those are the places where I truly draw my value from. I always had a rough time, with introductions, because we live in a society where people tend to introduce themselves with the letters and the positions and their skill sets and stuff like that. And those are all fine and dandy, nothing wrong with that. But I think when introducing yourself, you should always, if you're going to introduce yourself with anything besides your name, it should truly be things that you draw value from and things that you can't have taken away from you, that are truly yours.
And that you say that, man, like the fatherhood, a husband, son, uncle, and aunt, whatever it is, like you can't take those things away from someone, and you should never introduce, oh, I'm Chris or I'm Liban. I have a PhD in this, a PhD in that. We're no better than anyone else. We're all human.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And we do live in those times where people, they find value and pride, which by all means you should, but it's to an extent where for me, it becomes uncomfortable where the letters start defining you rather than the name that comes behind the letters there. And they may be achievements, but you being yourself, there's only one of you on this planet. So you being yourself is an achievement in its own. And that should truly be where you start everything. But after I am those things, I'm a writer. I am the founder and owner of Sophia Media. It is a digital media company out here in Calgary. From my understanding, I am the only Black-owned digital media, digital PR company here in Calgary. I help build relationships with your respective publics. You know how PR goes. It's some cool stuff, but I get to work. I've been specializing and finding a niche with working with artists and small businesses and creatives more often than not. And I get to dress it how I want to dress to work, and that's the fun part. That's where I find a lot of value from is being able to, when you have ownership over your stuff, you get to come to work however you want to come to work, And yeah, I'm wearing a pair of shorts under here and, and a fitted hat with a gold chain, man. And that's my work attire.
I love that you say that, man. And you can do what you want. You know what I mean? You're your own boss. You have no one to answer to at the end of the day, except for yourself. So if you mess something up, you only have yourself to look upon here. And you touched upon being a writer there over the last couple of days, leading up to recording this with you. I've been reading some of your blogs and stuff, and there's some really deep ones. I like the lock in the sock one. That was one that I read last night, and it goes really deep, though. It brought back some memories for me too, being locked up as well. All those crazy things going through my head, and especially where I went as well. I knew no one. I had no clue what I was getting myself into because I was dragged down the 401 5.5, 6 hours from where I am in southwestern Ontario here down towards Ottawa. So I had no clue what I was getting myself into, but I sort of just went in with the mentality just to, sit back, shut up and do my thing and do whatever I needed to do to get the hell out of there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll give to give a little context to what you're talking about. There is my blog post, Drop a Lock in the Sock, which is a cautionary tale about the importance of preparation. And so it's like an analogy of past experiences of going to jail, like growing up in the hood and anywhere. It doesn't really have to be the hood, but anywhere that's over policed, where the chances of you running into the cops are higher than not, you will run into the cops. That was my reality for a while. I lived in a place we were over policed, and so I ran into the cops a lot. And a lesson that I learned was the importance of preparation. Drop the lock in the sock. If you've been to jail, you know what I'm talking about. That analogy of getting ready for the unexpected. And in this journey of like unlearning and relearning for myself, that I think we were talking about this not too long ago about doing shadow work and all this stuff. It's preparation for the transformation that you're in the journey that we're embarking on going by. The importance of preparation goes a long way, man. And I have a big board in my living room. My wife is working there right now, but I have three big boards. I have one, it's my calendar, and then I have a small one, which is like my daily deliverables, and then I have one for my week's plan. And so the one for my week's plans at the bottom of it, I have a quote that says an ounce of preparation is better than a pound of and so
I
that
love
really
that,
stuck with
man.
me. I don't know where I heard it, and maybe it was a movie. I'm a big movie buff, but I heard it somewhere, and that's become like a almost like a mantra in my house where just a little bit of prep is going to be better than a lot of cure. And cure in that sense would be the damage control that comes from the mess that you cause when you're not prepared for shit. And also the worst thing I feel like one of the worst things in life that can happen to you is for opportunity to present itself and you not be ready. That's a sucky situation, a sucky place to be in. And if you stay prepared and stay ready, you have to get ready. And that's the mantra that I really, I model a lot of my life after at this point in time.
That's amazing. And over our talks and stuff like that, you've really honed in on just working on yourself and not worrying about the outside world too, man, because you can only control your own actions and reactions to the outside world. So if you give into the outside world, when we were talking recently about this too, not worrying about all these old friends or whatever, because if we go back to that old life of ours, we're just gonna be down that same hole again and back to square one and have to build up again. So it's all about just setting those boundaries and those intentions, those, positive intentions in life. And I can see that you're doing that.
No, I appreciate that, man. I'm not sure if you're more so like me in the sense where, you are your own worst enemy if you don't like keep it in check. I tend to self-destruct. I tend to self-harm, self-deprecate if left to my own devices. And I've learned this. I'm turning 34 years old this year. And so on this journey of, that I've embarked on of transforming myself mentally from a young man to a young boy to a full grown man. Really takes care of what he has to take care of. Preparation, understanding my weaknesses, understanding my strengths, leaning into my strengths, and also like really setting those boundaries for my weaknesses because I know what I'm susceptible to. And though it's that walk of life because more often than not, the people that are on that walk of life are people that you have a lot of personal experience with. And so it's easy to go find your way back into the belly of the beast, so to say. And after all this work I've done, the most dangerous place for me to be is a place where I'm susceptible to slipping back into old habits and stuff like that. And so I stayed very mindful of that shit for sure.
Yeah, no, I do too. Like, I don't go put myself in situations, whether it's hanging out with people that are doing drugs, selling drugs, those types of things. Same for you. Probably not going out and hanging out with the guys that are doing things that they're doing and stuff like that, your old homies and stuff like that, because it's just not who you are today. You have kids to worry about, a daughter to worry about, a wife to worry about. The bigger picture is what you're worrying about. And if you go back to that, you lose everything. Same with me. If I go back to my old lifestyle, I lose everything. All bets are off. I will either end up in jail, institutions, or death. End of
Mhm.
story. At the end of
Hell
the day,
yeah.
if I go
And
back to my
that's
old
exactly. So you're gonna either, especially at this point where we're full grown adults, and so fucking up and going back for us, it's not about one of three options. It's one of two options, right? It's either we're gonna die or we're going to end up in jail. And just being mindful of that. I like you said, I got a daughter, I got a wife, I got uh businesses I own. I'm a third year PR student. I went back to school at 30, man, and I'm almost done. I see the finish line. And so for me, it's a no benefit for me to put myself to sacrifice myself again. And for a long time, I felt like that was the case, right? It's like when you live the life I've lived and you make your way out of it, you have this thing called I read about it, it's called survivor's remorse. And it's you feel bad for the fact that it's like, why me? Why did I have the wherewithal to put myself out of it? And why not the people that I love? And so you you sacrifice yourself by constantly going back into the belly of the beast with hopes of like being able to drag somebody out.
And you
It's the
can't do that. I
you
learned
can't,
that the
yeah,
hard way. They have to be willing to do it for themselves, be willing to admit
yeah,
that they have a problem, whether it's with drugs, alcohol, gang life, or whatever it is. They have to be willing to want to get out of it themselves. It's
and
my
that's a
parents
lesson
had to
in
learn the
itself.
hard way. My parents had to learn the hard way. They couldn't force me to go to drug and alcohol treatment or rehab or whatnot. I had to admit that I had the problem first. And it took me a hell of a long time, I'll tell you that, until 37 years old, 36 years old, whatever it was, until I finally just, got down on my knees and just said, fuck, I am done with this, man. I'm done with sick and tired of being sick and tired at the end of the day.
Man, Chris, you're preaching to the choir, brother. I'm telling you, man. And oftentimes I talk about this. There's a line in the Jay-Z song in his American Gangster album from a song called Fallen. And he says a line where he goes, the irony of selling drugs is sort of like using it. I guess it's two sides to what substance abuse is. And that always stuck with me because when people talk about substance, they often talk about the use of the drug itself and that lane of it. For a majority of my teenage life and majority of my adult life, I sold drugs. And so I was addicted to what comes with it from this lane, from this angle, the other side of it, where you're addicted to the cash, you're addicted to the access to the things that you got, like that things that the cash can get you. You addicted to the power, you're addicted to all those freaking things that come with it. Not to indict myself. I don't know what statutes and limitations are here. I was on that side where like I tell people all the time, I'm truly a recovering addict of the street life, from the hood life, from the street pharmacist life, where all the shit that came along, that's what I was addicted to. And then that's what I'm susceptible to. So when I come around, the people that I love who are still in the game, it's like I walk into rooms where it's big bags of cash and weapons and stuff like that. That's what I see. And that's what I was used to. And that's what I'm weak against. That's where if I don't fucking play it safe, I'll find myself yearning for that shit for sure. And you got, like you said, you got to keep it really honest with yourself. And with the minute I started telling myself the truth on a consistent basis, what happens is you build a rapport with yourself and you believe in yourself in a different way when you say, I'm not going to do that, or I am going to do this and I'm going to conquer this. And you set a goal for yourself. Once you start building that rapport with yourself and you start showing up for yourself in a real mindful, purposeful way, there's a big shift that happens. And once that happened, I was the same person. Period.
That's
There's
amazing,
nothing wrong
and I
with it.
appreciate you and respect you for sharing that. As a addict of drugs myself, it's nice to talk to someone that was on the other side and hear their sort of story as how they were addicted. It's the same thing, man. Addiction is addiction. Doesn't matter what you're addicted to. It could be porn, sex, drugs, rock and whatever the hell it is, man. At the end of the day, addiction is addiction. And I'm truly grateful and that you were vulnerable enough to share that here, man. Truly respect you for that.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much, Chris. And I feel I was a leader on that end of things too. And when I started this journey, one of the main things about unlearning and relearning habits that benefit me and benefit my family, and put myself on a trajectory where not just being successful, but being happy and being content with myself in a real spiritual way. One of my number one rules was number one, like things I kept in mind was that I have to bring the same energy on this end as I did on that. And just so I was leading over there, I have to lead over here. Yeah, man, I truly I go out of my way to make myself visible and let people know that a lot of the stuff that you pick up on the streets, the transferable skills,
100%, man. Lots of the skills that I've learned through life have made me in. I don't forget the past. I don't want to forget because that's who made me who I am today, the man I am today. What happened in the past transpired into who I am and what I'm doing today. And whether it's speaking with the younger generation, doing my podcast, sharing my truths and stuff like that. There's no need to sugarcoat it at all. I was talking to someone yesterday. No need to sugarcoat it at all, especially when you're talking to the younger generation. Share the truths because if you sugarcoat it, what are they learning? Nothing. You need to share right from the heart.
absolutely, man. And they can't relate to you. The kids have a bullshit, young folks and kids, they have a bullshit detector that's better than any lie detector test any police department ever had. So kids fucking see right through you. And if you are trying to reach out to youths, you're trying to reach out to these kids and tell them, look at me, relate to me, and try to sugarcoat that shit. They'll run you off the yard real quick. I don't sugarcoat shit myself either. And I've never been one to. I don't feel like your message is going to land if you aren't telling your message the way it is and giving people the truth, not just the curated truth, not just your truth, not just their truth, but like the whole fucking truth, the good, the ugly, the bad. Like you got to tell them everything. Like for example, I had a young friend that was very young and he was in the game. And so he had this almost, he was in awe with and enamored with the players in the game. And so for him, that's what he sees in his neighborhood after all day. That's who he has access to. He villainized the things that were good in society and made a hero out of the things that were bad. And I had to keep it, you have to keep it 100%. And so for me, I made it a point to show him that all the fun and shit that might come with this, give him that explanation, but then give him the harsh truth about, you know, what comes with this life and what the bad and the ugly really look like. And what they look like is, for me, I went to my 32nd funeral the day before I turned 33. And that type of trauma is not something that you wish on anybody, that type of weight holding you down, where you have real life memories of laughing and kicking up with somebody and they're not here anymore. And they were taken from you abruptly due to gun violence and shit that comes with the things that he's looking at. Oh my God, like he looks at like it's a really, they're the heroes. Those heroes don't live long lives. And so I had, like you said, you just gotta give them the whole truth.
100%, because there's only, two ways out of that. The game you're talking about, it's either the morgue in a casket or jail, really, at the end of the day. That's about it, man.
And if you do survive all of that, the price you pay with your soul and the price you pay with your spirit is not,
And the trauma you see, the
yeah,
PTSD that's
it'll
gonna
never be
cause.
worth it'll never be worth it. The PTSD is crazy, man. You see some of the posts I write, man. Like I'm still suffering from that till today, man. I think it was a couple of weeks ago where my wife was laughing at me, but it dawned on me that she was laughing at a life skill that kept me alive for so long. But now she was cracking jokes about it because I'm not involved in it, and it's hindsight's always 2020. And I was laughing with her, you know, and
Yeah.
I was because it's like now it's like the weight's kind of gone or leaving or it's not as heavy. I can see things. It's like, it looks weird when a car is driving by and I'm looking into the windows, who's in that car. That level of alertness helped me survive a certain part of my life. And now I'm in the Walmart parking lot with my wife. What the fuck am I looking in people's cars?
Oh, yeah, that's the same with
So
me, like, the paranoia kicks in from all the drugs I use sometimes, and then I'll get looked at, "What are you doing?" It's I have to snap out of it, you know what I mean? "Don't worry about it. This is why I was doing this, but I don't even know why I'm doing it. I haven't even done this stuff in 3 years." Watch and catch those things that creep back in though, 'cause it can
fucking
lead
right.
you down the wrong path astray, man.
Fucking right, man. And that paranoia that you speak of, those are things that our decisions rewired our brains, the things that we decided to embark on, the paths that we decided to journey towards. What they did was they changed the wiring and the makeup of our brain. And that angle about healing really isn't spoken about too often, where we hardwired ourselves to take on a different level of trauma, and that changed the layout of our brain in a major way. So unlearning and fucking rechanging that shit. That's
It's
another.
hard, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
It is, man. And nothing in life worth having is supposed to be easy, anyways. And so,
Exactly.
if you don't have any resistance or any difficulty on the journey that you're on, maybe on the wrong journey, you need resistance. You need shit to be hard.
For sure. So what do you do when you want to get out of your own head?
Chris, that's the $1 million question, man. The With journeys, what I find is that we convince ourselves that if we finish XYZ, we'll get to this place called success and we'll get to this place called happiness, as if they're destinations and that the journey in itself is just a means to an end. But really, in the journey is where all the magic happens. And I want this so bad, this for my kid. I want it for my wife, for just me. I want it so bad that oftentimes I find myself in my head about a lot of, and then it becomes detrimental to that journey. And what I do me and you were speaking about it, I think was it last night or the night before, where you were talking to me about journaling, about gratefulness journaling. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, gratitude, grateful journal.
Gratitude, exactly.
Yeah,
My homegirl, she was really big on meditation and mindfulness and doing things on purpose. And she used to preach to me all the time because she'd see me working myself to the bone because I convinced myself that there's this place. If I do these things, I'll get to this place called success and I'll find this place called happiness. And it was through her and my wife and my older sister that harped on me a lot to really see what's around me and that I'm truly in a state of happiness, in a state of success, and what's happening is all the mental. And she introduced me to journaling, and she introduced me to journaling. The things that I'm grateful for, not necessarily just writing out like X, Y, Z happened, A, B, C happened, one, two, three happened, but more so, here's three things I'm grateful for this morning. Here's four things I'm grateful for this afternoon, and here's another three things that I'm grateful for this evening. And man, like it, like I said, the changing of the way we're hardwired in our brain, that really, ooh, the sun just really came out. Ooh, that's a good light. You see that? But that it changed the hardwiring of my brain. I can't get lost in my own thoughts anymore, and it's amazing how effective something as simple as jotting down three bullet points of the things that you're grateful for in this very moment. And so what it does is
for
when you're
sure.
trapped in your mind, pulls you out into the moment. You're not
What do you
'cause when you yeah, because oftentimes when you're in your mind, you're not in the present. You're either thinking about the past or you're overthinking and taking and doing that gratitude list just real quick. You don't even have to really write it down. You could say it out loud if that works easier for you. And so that's what I found, man. It just helped me get out of my mind and come in and enjoy the moment. I mean,
I love that, man. No, it's so true too, and just like living in that present moment with your kids and stuff like that, your family is the best thing you can do, man. So
man,
what
yeah, exactly.
habits have helped you make you successful now, man? What are some habits that you've created for yourself that have helped you become successful in what you're doing today?
I was a homeboy hipster. I was a for me, I had a circle of friends that was shit, man, as big as could be. And I went with the flow, like things like that, where it was just like I never really had a plan. If you had asked me, I didn't think I was gonna make it to 25, and I did. And so 25 came around, and I didn't think I was gonna make it to 30. And so, and here I am, 7 years into this journey, and at times these things it feels like a dream. It feels like it never happened, but the trauma kind of snaps you out of that. And sorry, can you repeat that question? What was it? What was it
No worries.
going with that?
What habits have helped make you successful today, like
Exactly,
from your
exactly.
past
So
life?
a lot of that shit is just they're transferable skills, right? The eagerness
100%.
to
Yeah.
grind. Yeah, the eagerness to grind, the critical thinking, the decision making, making executive decisions that right on the spot. Those are all transferable skills. Those are things that corporations look for in their leaders. And you know, a lot of these young street entrepreneurs exhibit that in abundance. And so being able to identify what it is that you have, I think that's some dope shit. I think that'll take you far, being able to identify it and make it transferable for you and work for you, whatever other journey you go on to. But as far as habits, man, like I've always been a reader, no matter like what stage of life I was in. Reading has always been a form of escapism for me. And reading a lot of the books that I've read pulled out a lot of little things, tidbits of information that help propel me in my career, propel me in my personal life. There's a book that I read called Deep Work by Cal Newport, where he talks about in the 8 hour workday, on average, people get about an hour and a half, 2 hours of work, like actual work done. And it's because of all these little micro distractions, all these breaks, all these things that really they just keep us there for 8 hours. Or really, we could have kind of compressed this. And so he talks about this concept of deep work, where you just plug yourself in for 3 hours straight, 4 hours straight, maybe tap into, build a little feng shui, a little office space, place where you can zone in and do some deep work. And but what I found with that, it helped really free my time up and increase my productivity. So I'm not only hitting my quotas and doing the things I need to do, crushing the goals I've set for, I've opened up this so much time for myself to do other things. And that adds to your success in however many ways you want it to, is doing some deep work. So that was one for me, being mindful of my time in the sense that we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And so what you do with it is up to you. And that determines where, how, or however far you're going to go on your journey. And Robin Sharma, we were talking about last night, you and I, one of his books called The 5 a.m. Club. That's another game changer for me where I don't need to be up at 4 in the morning. You know what I mean? I don't need to be up at 3 in the morning. Get some sleep, do your thing, wake up at 5 in the morning and crush it. If you can crush your morning and you set that precedent for yourself, that's the day's precedent. Like this is the energy I'm coming into the day with, man. And that's another game changer. So those are two major habits that have really helped me find the levels of success that I've been looking for in my
That's
journey in
amazing,
my
man.
career.
No, and I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, no, Robin Sharma is an amazing author. His new book, The Everyday Hero Manifesto, The 5 a.m. Club. He's got so many good books, and there's so many other great ones out there too, man. So yeah, if anyone's looking for a good book, definitely check out The 5 a.m. Club because I'm definitely reading that stuff too.
Hell yeah, man. I really enjoy I enjoy authors that can take really complex subjects and give it to you in a very digestible. Like I aspire to be that kind of a writer where I can take these very complex things and give them to you in the everyday way that we talk and we. So Robin Sharma comes off as one of those kinds of writers for me where he shares his experiences of these very complex things in very digestible, very easy ways to process, you know?
Yeah, I found it
Uh,
very easy to learn off the Everyday Hero Manifesto so far. Like it's very easy. You can go back and I'll even reread things a few times and be like, yeah, man, that makes total sense with what he's talking about here.
Absolutely,
For
man.
sure.
The average person needs to be spoken, not down to, but explain. You got to explain things bottom up, and you can only do that in a universal language. And Sharma has really mastered that universal. Chris, I've
So yeah,
wanted to take a minute and actually commend you for the podcast. Like I stumbled into this. I don't know. A lot of people are not really big on taking local podcasts in, taking in local creators. And when I say local, are true north strong and free boys. You know what I mean? Like we don't really put a lot of effort into finding Canadian podcasts and tapping in with our fellow countrymen and women. And I really try to go out of my way and take in the content that's being made in my country here. And I stumbled into the dark side of healing. And so for me, it was a breath of fresh air. And then building this relationship with you, going back and forth, talking about various different things, man. You play a big role in anchoring me, especially in times where I find myself, like I said, in my head about things. You become one of those people I really look to find solace because I understand you understand what I understand. If that makes sense.
no, I appreciate that, man. No, it does make sense, and it's nice to, connect with fellow people and people from your own country and stuff like that, and truly grateful for your words, man. I truly appreciate those kind words of yours, man, and they go a long way, man. Even anyone out there listening, leaving a little comment or leaving a review, that it goes a long way for
Oh
helping us
yeah.
content creators grow as well, man.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to touch a little bit too around it's Black History Month too, which is amazing. It's something we should all celebrate as a whole. What are your feelings on cultural appropriation?
I like how you dropped that. What are your feelings on cultural appropriation? Man, it's fucking shitty, man. Don't do it. You know,
No, it's so true, man. Like,
yeah, just don't do it, man. We're all adults. I find it very difficult to understand why people continue to do shitty shit. You know what I mean? It's so simple. Somebody asks you not to do something, don't do it. It's fine to enjoy a culture. I enjoy many. I enjoy all, to be honest. And I find something beautiful about every culture. Just feel like cultures are like women. There's beauty. There's something beautiful about all of them, and there's something worth loving about all of them. And just be mindful of what culture really is. It defines a lot of people. It gives a lot of identity to folks. And so that's a place where you tread carefully. You should enter the space of culture more so in a curious, you ask questions and you learn more about it rather than coming in and trying to just be like, I like this shit, I'm gonna do this. I like this shit, I'm gonna take this for mine. And even though I do believe we're all global citizens and that overlap in everything that we do, there's parts of how we dress that are hip hop culture, there's parts of how we speak that are Western culture, and there's parts of us that are different cultures that we've adopted in respectful ways. Yeah, like I said, it's tread lightly and be more inquisitive than you are demanding, and more where you feel entitled to it or anything like that. You just make sure it's somebody else's. Ask first. You don't just put on people's clothes, and you don't just put on people's shoes. If you like it, ask where it's from, how they made it, what it means to you, why you like it. And asking these things, um, why this thing stands out to you, what connection do you have with it? And in asking those series of questions, I find you're not even going to want to appropriate it. You know what I mean? You're going to actually like appreciate it so much that the level of respect is going to be like, yo, let me protect it rather than just, yo, let me just snatch it for my own gains and whatnot. So yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, no, and you're so right there, man. If you don't know something about someone's culture, go do some research or actually ask that person those inquisitive questions like you asked instead of being ignorant about it in a bad way too. You can be ignorant in a good way where you don't know things. Go do your research. Go ask those questions so you can learn more about it and understand what it is all about.
Exactly. You know, nobody has all the answers. There's an old adage, hip hop adage, closed mouths don't get fed on this boulevard. You know what I mean? And so, what the meaning behind that is, if you don't ask no questions, if you don't say you're hungry, you speak, nobody's a mind reader and nobody's going to be able to help you out. And so, ask these questions. Use that gift of gab. Use that mouth that the Lord gave us. Yes.
Exactly, man, for sure.
Ask these questions. Hell yeah, man. But happy Black History Month to you too, man. I actually got selected this month as a spotlight feature writer at the Mount Royal University, which is the school that I go to. And so I wrote a short story actually called Love, Olive Oil, and Coffee. And it's my origin story. And that's the theme of the story. And it's being featured this month. And afterwards, I'll drop my socials and stuff. And if you guys want, you can tap in. There'll be links to be sharing. I believe tomorrow I have to submit my polished version of of the dramatic reading of the story. And so exciting, man. It's the thing with
That's
Black
amazing.
History.
I'm proud of you for creating that story, that dramatic story for others to hear in your origin story, man. That's deep.
Absolutely, man. Like it's for real. Like I'm finding these new avenues of creating and sharing these stories. It's almost like an evolution of my writing, where it's like I'm finding like audio, um, making it an audio experience as well goes a long way with your listeners and your readers. And so once I started tapping into that, I was like, oh shit, I like this, man. I like being able to read my stories in the way that I wrote them and have people, you don't have people leaving your readings with question marks. They hear the tone in which you're speaking and they hear exactly what you mean. And I'm thrilled to have been selected, one. And two, in keeping with the spirit of Black History Month, that was a little bit of my Black history. I'm from Somalia. I'm a refugee of war. And so I was born into a pretty affluent family that did very well for themselves. And then a civil war broke out in 1991. And my aunt, who was 19 at the time, she overnight became a mother figure to an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old, which were me and my brother. And so she brought us here and she raised us for 12 years. I actually met my mom when I was damn near 14 years old. And I met my dad when I was like 15, my biological parents. And so I was raised by people who weren't my biological parents. And so I always had this sense of I was loved, but not unconditionally. And I had this chip on my shoulders growing up. These are the isms that I'd had. And so that's my personal the black experience. The thing about it is people think it's like being black is one thing. Everybody goes through the same shit and it's not. The black experience is actually something that's very unique to yourself. And my personal history doesn't actually trace back to the history of slavery and the Western experience that black people had. My experience goes to straight to Africa, and my experience goes to colonialism, which was that's my parents speak Italian because Italy colonized the part of Somalia that I'm from. And being able to share my origin story and my experience, it was very refreshing because oftentimes people feel like you're black. What more is there to it? The experience is the experience. There's racism out here, and there's bigotry, and there's systemic racism, and interpersonal racism, and it all stems from simply from being black. But when you're black 24/7, there's a whole lot more than racism out here about your story, and it's been thrilling. It's been an honor to be able to tell my stories. I can't wait to share it with everybody.
Nice, man. I appreciate that, man. And we've almost come to the end of the show, but before they go, where will they be able to find the story? Where can they find Liban on social media and stuff like that to follow him and follow along on his journey, man?
Hell yeah, man. SophiaMedia.ca. The website is actually up, but it's a bit under construction right now, but it is up. And you can find me directly on Instagram at Real Prime Examples. That's me. You'll probably see me posting a bunch about my kids. That's a reoccurring theme in my posts lately. But yeah, and there's LeeHassan.com, which is where if you're hiring for writers, because career-wise, I'm a PR professional, but also I'm a full-time copywriter right now. And so that's what I do. I work for a local marketing agency, and I help with copy. And if ever you have your small business, you have your whatever journey you're on, I can definitely help you write some copy. Reach out, build these connections. But honestly, I minus being a writer and a father, I really fancy myself as a connector. And I know a lot of people and a lot of people from all walks of life, and I find that has really worked in my favor in finding people that need each other and connecting them. And yeah, man, feel free to reach out, and anytime I'm always down for a good conversation about growth and the things that we need to do to acquire more of it. And Chris, me and you go back and forth fairly often about our growth mindsets and how we promote it. And yeah, that's where you can find me
Well,
mostly
yeah.
on my Instagram.
Thank you again for coming on the show today and just sharing your experience, your strength, your hope, and your story, man. And it's your story is your story and your truth, and that's all that matters. And I'll drop all the links to all his stuff in the show notes, everyone. But I hope you have a great rest of your day, man.
Nah, man, thank you for having me, Chris. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. We didn't get the chance to talk about our ADD. And so we'll see that for our next one. You know what I mean? Or I'll have you come on
For sure.
my podcast when I bring it back. And definitely, man. But I really appreciate what you're doing out here for us, man. And your efforts don't go unseen. And I want you to know that and smell your flowers while you can. And so I'll be sure to keep letting you smell your flowers, man, as often as I can.
Thank you so much again, man. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Nah, for sure, bruh.